Joined now at the intermission by Cape Breton Eagles defenseman Zach Biggar. Zach, what of a number of acquisitions the Eagles brought in the second half of the season. What are your thoughts thus far in your time with the Eagles, Zach?
It's been a lot of fun so far, Patty. I think we had a good group in the locker room. We're starting to click a lot more. We've been having a little good stretch there. We've had a successful trip so far up here in Quebec. We're looking to have a good game against Gatineau here and take home another 2 points, keep moving up standings, and secure that playoff spot for ourselves.
Recording this because I wasn't sure of your status. Unfortunately, you're not in the lineup. You might not know what you can say, what the status right now. You're confident you'll be back soon?
We're going to get it checked out when I get back home, but I'm pretty confident it's nothing serious. But right now, it's just a nagging thing.
Hopefully, it won't be too long before we see you back in the lineup. You began your Q career with Bathurst. You got traded to Blainville in the offseason. Were you kind of excited to get back to the smaller town life when you got traded to the Eagles?
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. I like the small towns. I was in Blainville, obviously. It's pretty overwhelming when you move from a small town in Bathurst where you play hockey, and I'm obviously for PEI, so I'm not used to that setting. So it's nice to get back to Sydney anyways. It's very similar to PEI at home, so people are all nice. It's a small place, so I've really been enjoying it.
Wanted to go back to your 16-year-old season because you were a high pick for the Bathurst T10. You go back to Junior A, and you lit it up. We don't see numbers from a 16-year-old defenseman that often. Just how important was that 16-year-old year for your development in Summerside?
Real important, actually. I was super disappointed when I got sent down by Bathurst. So it hit me pretty hard because I thought I was going to be there. And obviously, that's the reality of junior hockey now. They see it. I'm 19. It's really tough to play as a 16-year-old in this league. So going back there and playing with a lot of real good players, I could have played in the Q. I think we were the second best team in the country for most of that year. So obviously, it sucked with COVID shut it down. We didn't get the chance to actually get the win. But I met a lot of friends there that I'll call brothers for a long time. So it was a real good step for my development.
And get to play a high level in your home province, which is nice as well. You went to New Jersey Devils camp in 2021. Let's talk about that experience.
I was super eye-opening. Before that, I haven't been to an NHL game, so my first time stepping in an NHL rink was actually going into a dressing room, which was crazy. And obviously, I was an invite, so you got to see those high-profile guys. I think I went with Mercer and Holtz, and I was really close with Chase Stillman, who's another first-rounder. We played U17s together, so it was a really cool experience. We got to travel up to Buffalo. It was by bus, which was not normal for NHL, but I thought it was cool because we drove through upstate New York, and it was like a movie driving through. Just fields, you'd see a corner gas station, a church, just like hearing a country song. So that experience was real cool, and actually getting to play a game and stuff. So it was a really good experience for me and something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
I like to talk about education on the program quite a bit. You were Gervais Munger nominee last year for Bathurst. Just tell us about your nomination and how important school is for you.
School is definitely really important for me. I know that. My parents emphasize it a lot to make sure I'm doing my school. And obviously, when every road trip, I bring my computer. We're doing school yesterday on the bus and in the room when we have free time. So it's trying to just stay on top of things, and you want to get the best mark possible. It's real tough to make it in pro hockey. So obviously, that's the dream. But if that doesn't pan out, then you obviously got to have school in your back pocket, and the Q is really good for that.
You remember the Bathurst T10 last year. You guys had a really strong team. Didn't end up the way you would have liked, I'm sure, but I wanted to touch on that marathon game in Halifax. You ended up going to triple overtime. You're a defenseman, so I'm assuming you saw a lot of ice that night. Just tell us about that game.
That was a whirlwind of a game. We were down. I don't know what it was. We're going into overtime periods, and we were just super confident, which was weird. We had our backs against the wall. We were supposed to win, so we were super confident, which was good for us. We were in the room. We weren't concerned about that. It was just like, when is it going to end? Because Rousseau and Halifax, I don't know if you made 70 or 80 saves in that game. It was nuts. But I remember the game winner when Dume came down the wall, and I had no energy and just rubbed him out. I think we both fell down, and it took me probably 5-10 seconds to get back up, and I just watched Riley Kidney go down the ice and shoot low glove and score. And I'm so happy he scored because we were all pretty gassed.
Unfortunately, we'll get the chance to defend against Riley Kidney today, but the Eagles defense will have to be on their toes. Canada Games season, Nick McNeil's over there, of course, in Nova Scotia, and it's in your home province. 4 years ago, you were there representing PEI. How special is that for a player?
That's another thing you won't forget in your life, in your hockey career. We went to Red Deer. We stayed in Red Deer College dorms. There's 12 of us in a room with, I don't know how many beds there was, 12, 8, I don't know what it was, but it's a real cool experience when you go there. You get to meet all the athletes in the village, and obviously it being on PEI, I'd love to be there to see what it's like, but obviously that's not possible. So, but I'm sure I'll be watching, checking in on how PEI is doing, obviously.
Since you were traded to Cape Breton, you've been primarily with Tomas Lavoie. Thomas talked about in the first half, he liked being paired with Jeremy Langlois, older defenseman, and now you jump into that role. How fun has that been to mentor a young guy?
Thomas is real good. He went first overall for a reason, so he's got a lot of skill, and I'm just trying to help him out with every kind of aspect of what goes on in the game, just make sure he understands what's going on. He obviously has a skill. He's smart enough to play hockey. I don't have to tell him anything about that. Just trying to keep the mental part of the game, not getting too high, too low. It's easy for your mind to get out of sorts in a game, especially in the Q. we have some crazy games in this league. Obviously, he's doing great so far, and it's been fun playing with him. I'm pretty lucky to play with him. That's something I'll remember for a long time, I'm sure.
We always like to pump up the big tournaments. We had Owen Arnold on recently talking about winning the Monktonian in 2019. You had the chance to do that in 2018 with Kensington.
Yeah.
Just how exciting was that to win that tournament? It's one of the more high-profile ones around.
Yeah, we had such a good team in Kensington that year. So we won the Monktonian. It's a crazy story, actually. We barely made the crossovers or whatever it was. We had a wild card game where we had to play a team from Ontario that we tied the game before, and we had a bunch of fans on their team. Their parents were crazy, like chirping at us and stuff, and we ended up beating them 5-0 in the morning. We had to play another game, I think it was at 12 in the quarterfinals, and we won that game, and then we had to end up playing the semifinals later that night. 3 games that day, won all 3. Then we played the finals the next day, and we ended up beating Steel Subarus. Pretty cool. And then obviously we had the Ice Jam as well. Lost in the finals to Moncton, 1-0 overtime, and then we made it to the Atlantic Finals and lost the heartbreaker to Halifax, who played a great game. But we had a great team. It was a real fun year.
Zach might have a future in broadcasting. He has a good chronicle for events. I love this stuff. Lastly, I'll ask, if somebody hadn't watched you play before, how would you describe yourself as a player?
It's pretty cliche, but I'd say I'm a two-way defenseman. I make good first pass. I think my biggest aspect of my game is my smart, my IQ. I just understand the game. I like to jump in the play as much as possible, but obviously it's not something you want to do every single shift. You'll run your tank at a gas, so obviously you just got to be smart about it. Just a two-way defenseman. I try and keep it as smart as possible. Jump in there when I can.
Junior hockey and really hockey in general for D is all about reading and learning, and it's a never-ending process, but fans are enjoying watching you go through that. Best of luck going forward, Zach. Thanks for this.
Thank you very much.
That's Eagles defenseman Zach Biggar joining us at the intermission. You're listening to Cape Breton Credit Union Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.